How do we go from we to you and me? How do we heal codependency? How do we make sure that we are creating a beautiful relationship at home with our partners through healthy interdependence? I am so excited to dive into this episode today because it is near and dear to my heart. It is my story about how my husband have transcended our codependency into healthy interdependence. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Sana. I am a feminine energy and embodiment coach, and I help ambitious women slow down, tap into their body, and connect with their intuition so that they can create a life balanced in their feminine and masculine energies and co-create their path to bliss, which is their authentic, happily ever after. We have been sold on this story through fairy tales and movies and media that when you meet your person, they are going to be your other half and you're going to become whole. So that's where the narrative of twin flames comes from. We are taught this idea that your soul is in two separate pieces and you are one and your partner is the other, when in reality, what it is, the feminine and the masculine energies are within you. And when you choose a partner to do life with, they are simply mirroring your own connection with yourself, your own inner energies. So yes, do I believe in soulmates? Of course. However, I don't believe that there's only one soulmate. I don't believe a soulmate is fractals of one soul in a different body. What I believe is that we are energetically attracted to certain people more than others because there is a karmic connection that we are meant to embark on in order to learn certain lessons. I don't believe that you can fall in love with anyone and everyone. I think that when we say fall in love, I think what that means is we fall from our ego into a connection to go on a soul contract. So basically, how I see relationships is we are attracted to somebody because that energetic charge is there to activate something within us. Whether it is to learn more self-worth or self-confidence or self-love, or whether it's to learn how to have a healthy connection with someone else. I think people love the idea of twin flames. Who doesn't? Oh, there's this perfect person out there for me. It's a very comforting thought when you don't have a strong relationship with your own self. And the reason people fall into codependency is because they don't have a strong sense of self. They don't even know who they are, and they're trying to find out who they are through relationships with others. At least that's what happened with me, right? Like I never really had the time to figure out who am I when I'm not being a daughter or sister or a friend or a coworker or an entrepreneur, what have you. I basically would just mold myself into whatever other people needed me to be. I was the ultimate people pleaser, and I enjoyed it because then I didn't have to think about what do I want and why am I here and what do I want to do. In hindsight, I realized that I was that way because I didn't want to think about all the work that was required to go on a journey of self-discovery, to really figure out what I like, what I don't like, who I am and who I'm not. But what happens is when you do that for a long time, you end up really disconnected from yourself. And then that's what results in really low life force, really low energy, really burnt out, exhausted, tired. Because when you have a strong connection to yourself, your soul, your essence, that generates energy from within. So instead of trying to receive energy from external sources, you're able to cultivate it from within your own self, and that becomes an abundance of energy. When we're in these codependent relationships, what we're really doing is trying to fuel that lack of energy through external sources. And we're trying to find fulfillment within through external sources. When you try to break free from that, at first, that journey can be incredibly scary because you're starting from scratch of reconnecting with your own self, your mind, body, soul, so that you can get into alignment with who you are and who you came here to be. And that takes a lot of self-reflection and self-growth and self-realization. Not a lot of people are ready to go down that path. So a lot of people still love to live in the idea that my partner is my other half and they fulfill me, which is totally fine. That's their path, and that's the path that they choose right here, right now. But for me, what happened was my soul was craving a connection with myself. I got to a point where I broke down in my kitchen on the floor, begging my own self for more love. That was the moment I realized that my husband can't fill this empty void in me. This is my opportunity to go within and take care of myself. I can no longer expect my husband and demand more from him to fulfill my core needs. I need to fulfill my own core needs. It was an invitation to go really deep into my inner child healing and realize that I need to reparent myself. I need to grow up. I need to realize that nobody owes me anything if I'm not willing to give myself the bare minimum from my own self. And honestly, I didn't even realize that my husband and I were in this unhealthy pattern of doing everything together, needing to be around each other all the time, never being able to spend a night apart, until I felt it within that I needed to have more freedom and autonomy and I needed to grow. And I'm not going to lie to you, I do think it's easier to be dependent on somebody else and want that connection. And you think that when you don't have that connection, then you may not really love each other. Or if you don't need each other, do you really love each other? Something that I'm learning and have learned recently is that need does not equal love. If anything, what it means is that you are trying to control each other and you're trying to make sure that you stay in each other's lives, even if it's not a healthy connection. And that can turn into really unhealthy attachments. Something that I'm really working on is making sure that everybody that I have in my life is there to add to it, not because I feel like I need them or because they feel like they need me. I think that love is something that can get misconstrued, and a lot of people think things that are not love at all are love. Like, for instance, some people might feel like if your partner doesn't want to spend every single waking moment with you, then that means that they don't love you. And that can lead to anxious attachment style. When in reality, I think it's extremely healthy for two people to have their own hobbies and interests and have space in between a relationship. Space is truly the fuel for desire because if you think about it, oxygen fuels fire. Something I had to really understand is that when my husband doesn't want to do everything with me, it doesn't mean that he doesn't love me. It means that he just simply wants to be his own self. And it's an invitation for me to tap into my own hobbies too. Really understanding that me having hobbies and interests outside of our marriage is only going to make me more of an interesting person when we have our date nights, when we do connect, when we do share our moments together. I think that it can be really empowering to have a whole life of your own outside of your relationship. When you have an identity outside of your relationship, I think it can really make you a well-rounded person that makes you much more interesting to be around versus, think about it, if you're around somebody who is always talking about their relationship, always talking about their kids, always talking about their friends, you're never really going to, one, even know who they are, two, think that they have anything to offer of themselves. To be honest, our souls came here to experience the human experience through our unique perspective. And if we are only living our lives based on what the people around us want from us or want with us, are you really living? Or are you just coasting through life through the lenses of others? So I think healing codependency has been an incredible journey for me to really understand that I am whole with or without anyone or anything around me. That doesn't mean that I don't love them. That doesn't mean that they don't love me. What it means is that I don't need them for survival. I have them in my life as a nice to have, as a add-on to the life that I'm building for my own self. And it really has helped me realize that I am a woman, not a child. I'm not somebody that needs to be taken care of. I'm somebody that can take care of myself. I don't need anyone or anything to be whole. And the connections that I do have in my life are beautiful, and they ebb and flow, and they're not rooted in unhealthy attachments to feeling like I need to control them or they need to control me. I think codependency can also really stifle your feminine energy. When we are relying on others in order to have a sense of self, what that does is limits your ability to think about what life can look like on the grand scheme of things. I think your higher self wants to experience the fullness of life through you, not through your relationships with others. That doesn't mean that we don't need others. Of course, I think humans need connections. I think humans need community. But at the same time, I think the art of relationships is balancing self and other. And when we're able to figure out a way to have those two things be separate yet together, that I think is truly how you ascend into a sacred union. I think when we are trying to make another person more than just somebody to enjoy life with, we can end up putting these unrealistic expectations of how they should be onto them. If you really think about the true meaning of love, I think it means acceptance. I think it means really honoring that people are allowed to learn on their own timeline. I think the most loving thing you can do is just meet somebody where they're at and not try to push them into a more comfortable version of them that you have in your own mind. I think that when you are trying to think that somebody is your twin flame and you are choosing growth and they are not, you're going to impose a lot of your insecurities. You're going to project a lot of your own thoughts, ideas, and beliefs and behaviors onto them. And what that does is it really limits that person from being who they came here to be. And you're just trying to mold them into a version of them that you want them to be. And I truly do believe that if we try to stop somebody from making mistakes, thinking that we know better than them, I think you could really stop them from evolving and becoming the person that they need to be through those mistakes. I think mistakes are also divine and divinely orchestrated, because through mistakes is how we learn certain lessons. And if you limit your partner from making a certain mistake, you could really take away a valuable lesson that they may need in order to become the person that they came here to be. So really, the most loving thing we can do for our partners is to accept them as they are, who they are, and allow them to learn and grow on their own timeline, while creating space at home for them to feel safe enough to be authentic on their own path. When you really do think about it in that way, you notice that a relationship has absolutely nothing to do with being a twin flame union or a journey. It really is just about how can I be the most me and how can they be the most them, and how can we support each other to be the most authentic versions of ourselves. I know for me, the most scary thought was outgrowing my partner. And how narcissistic of a thought is that? Because we don't know where our partner's at in their own journey. And something that I realized is that even though my husband doesn't believe in human design and astrology and all these things the way I do, doesn't mean that he's not evolved, doesn't mean that he's not growing in his own way. Like, we're all here to have our own paths. And this is why I'm so against things like religion and new age spirituality, because there is no one way to ascension. There is no one way to self-actualization. There is no one way to being a totally functioning human being of society. And there's no one way to reach your goals and your destiny. the most beautiful thing we can do for the people that we love is create a safe space at home for them to figure out their own journey and simply be there for them, like a mother and a child, right? Like the most sacred thing that a parent can do for their child is to just honor them and support them to learn and grow and become the person that they came here to be. And it goes the same way with our relationships. I think we hold on to a lot of false sense of control, thinking that if they're like this, then we could be happy and comfortable. Or we're just comparing our relationships to those on social media a lot, thinking, oh, her partner does this and that way my partner doesn't. And we completely forget all of the little ways that our partner is a perfect partner for us. When you don't have a strong sense of self, you can fall into that trap. But when you're grounded and rooted in who you are and what you need, you're able to detach from what you think you should be doing and what you should be acting like. And instead, you're able to realize that your life is perfectly orchestrated for you. And you're able to tap so much deeper into gratitude for everything exactly the way it is in your life right here, right now, which is the vibration of calling in more manifestations. So if you're somebody who is constantly comparing your relationship or your life to those that you see on social media, then you're really going to struggle with tapping into gratitude, and you're going to be subconsciously manifesting things that are proving to you that you're not worthy. But when you are so secure in who you are, understanding that what other people have is great for them and what you have is great for you, then you can actually receive more. It's like the greatest paradox of this entire journey. The one thing I'm taking away from my journey of going from codependency to interdependence is, one, just focusing on who I am and loving the people in my life for being who they are. That has really helped me understand the law of detachment and understanding that love is going to ebb and flow the way it wants to ebb and flow, and we really don't have a lot of control over it. All we can do is honor it and hold space for it and create a safe space for love to exist in our relationships with others. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. Getting back into the swing of things, I am creating an ebook about the path to bliss and how to co-create your own authentic happily ever after. So if you are interested in that, sign up for the waitlist below and you'll be the first to know when it's out in the world. Really figuring out your own way, your own path to co-creating your own happily ever after is something that we're not really taught. Nobody really shares about the journey, about what happens after marriage, what happens after the wedding day, what happens after the happily ever after. So I hope my platform can be a safe space for more conversations around the truth about balancing relationships, balancing our sense of self while we are cultivating healthy connections with others. And I hope you'll stick around for the ride, because I am entering a new era where I really want to dive deeper into this work. And I hope you will stick around for that too. Thank you so much for being here, for listening and tuning in. And please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below if you are on a journey of self-actualization while trying to balance it all with a happy and healthy relationship. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear what you guys are going through and struggling with, and what you're navigating through, what you're learning, what you're discovering. And I can't wait to connect deeper with you all. So thank you so much once again, and I'll see you guys next time.